Okay, question numero 4, 4A. These ones are a little bit different because it says for each pair of numbers, find a common denominator and then add. So why it says that is just like when you're adding fractions, when you're subtracting fractions, you always first have to find that common denominator so that you can add two like things. So starting off with our question 4A, we have 6 and 2/3 plus 1 and 1/5. So, like we talked on Wednesday, there's kind of two different ways to do these questions. The one way would be to turn both of these into your improper fractions, and the other way is to kind of just separate your whole numbers, and that's what I'm going to do here. So if you did it the other way, that's fine, as long as we're still getting to that same end result. So, starting off, I'm looking for a common denominator. Common denominator between a 3 and a 5, and then I can write my new fractions. So your common denominator between 3 and 5, to find that, remember you're going through your multiples of 3, you're thinking 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. You're going through your multiples of 5, you're thinking 5, 10, 15. You're looking for that first common multiple, and in this case it is 15. So what did I have to do to get from 3 to 15? Well, I had to multiply by 5. So if you multiply the bottom by 5, you have to multiply the top by 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Over here, what did I do to 5 to get to 15? Well, I multiplied by 3. So times your top by 3. 1 multiplied by 3 is 3. There is your new fractions. So now I can add these together. 10 plus 3 is 13. What do we do with our denominator? We slide it over. So 13 over 15. Is that your final answer though? No. Do not forget about those whole numbers. We have a 6 and we have a 1. This is kind of the easy part though. All you have to do is add those together. Your whole numbers, 6 plus 1 is 7. So you also have 7 wholes. We'll add that down here to our answer. 7 wholes and 13 over 15. So there's your answer for 4A. If you'd like to, go ahead and pause the video there for a sec to make sure you have all that down if you're missing anything. B. We have 2 3/4 plus 5 and 1/8. So same thing here. You want to start off by finding your common denominator to write your new fractions so that you can add. We'll separate our wholes for now. We'll worry about them afterwards. So your common denominator, think of your multiples, 4, 8. We can stop there because we already see that we get to 8. So 4, 8, our common denominator is 8. What did we have to do to get from 4 to 8? Well, we multiplied by 2, so you're going to have to times your top by 2. 2 times 3 is 6. And over here, do we have to do anything to this fraction down here? No, we did not. We didn't have to do anything to the 8 to get to the 8, so we don't have to do anything to the 1. There's your new fractions. You are now able to add them because we have a common denominator. So 6 plus 1 is 7. Over, slide your denominator over to the right, 8. What do we have to do still? Add your whole numbers. So 5 plus 2 is 7. So your final answer, 7 wholes and 7 over 8. So what we're going to do for these guys, we're going to give you 2 marks. So 1 mark comes from this here, showing your work, showing what you did to find that common denominator. And your second mark comes from the answer. So 2 marks here, 1 mark from your work, 1 mark for your answer, 2 marks there. Let's move on to C and D. So for C, we have 1 whole and 4 over 7 plus 8 wholes and a half. So same thing, we got to find our common denominator to create our new fractions. Let's count up our multiples. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. But I'm going to go back a sec. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. I know that 14 is also a multiple of 7. So I'm going to use 14 as my common denominator. To get to 14, I had to go 7 times 2. Over here, to get from 2 to 14, I had to go 2 times 7. Let's do the same thing to the top. So whatever I did to the bottom over here, I'll do the top of this fraction. Whatever I did to the bottom over here, I'll do to the top of this fraction. And let's create our new numerators. 2 times 4 is 8. 1 times 7 is 7. Because we have that common denominator now, we can add these together. 7 plus 8 is 15 over top of 14. What do we not want to forget about? Our whole numbers. 8 plus 1 is 9. Write that over here just to remember what we're doing. 8 plus 1, remember these are our whole numbers, got us to 9. We're not quite done this question though. And why not? Because there is a improper fraction here. So what we have to do is ask ourselves like we did earlier in question 2, how do I change this to a mixed number? Well, 14 goes into 15 one full time. What's left over between 14 and 15 is 1. Our denominator stays the same as 14. So this right here, 15 over 14, is the same written as a mixed number, 1 and 1 over 14. What we have to do now is put 9 wholes together with 1 whole and 1 over 14. So add your whole numbers. 9 plus 1 is 10. And 1 over 14 stays as is. So that's where you get your mark in question 4C. If you got to this stage here where you had 9 wholes and 15 over 14, give yourself a half a mark for the answer. And if you didn't have it, please make sure you're writing this part down. You're showing your work over here. Okay? D. Once again, you can always pause the video if you need to kind of go through and reason some of these things out. We have for D 3 and 3 over 5 plus 3 wholes and 1 over 4. So to do the work here, we need to once again find a common denominator. And we'll write our new fractions down here. Sorry, they're getting a little close here. So our new fraction, our new denominators, we have a 5 and we have a 4. List your multiples if you want. If you want to write all those multiples down under this number, you definitely can. We know that our common denominator here is going to be a multiple of both 4 and 5. So the lowest common multiple is 20. And to get to that, we kind of thought to ourselves, well, counting up by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20. Counting up by 4s, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. There's your lowest common denominator. What did we have to do to get from 4 to 20? We times it by 5. What do we have to do to get from 5 to 20? Well, we times it by 4. So 5 times 4 was 20. 4 times 5 was 20. Do the same thing to your top. Multiply by 5. Multiply this by 4. 3 times 4 is 12 over 20. 1 times 5, 5 over 20. There's your new fractions. We're able to now add them because we have a common denominator. 12 plus 5 is 17. Keep your denominator the same as 20. What do we have to do before we move on? Make sure you're not forgetting about those whole numbers. 3 plus 3 is 6. So final answer there, 6 and 17 out of 20. Okay, going through, totaling up all of number 4. Remember, each of them were worth 2 marks. So 2 for A, 2 for B, 2 for C, 2 for D. You're getting 1 mark for showing your work. You're getting 1 mark for your answer. Total in number 4, I'll write it down here. I'll say it as well, but it is out of 8.